How's it going today, everybody? And welcome back to another episode of the Medicine Man Mick Show. It is I, Medicine Man Mick. So it's Wednesday, and you know what that means. It's wrestling night. We have All Elite Wrestling tonight. Dynamite should be an excellent episode, but we're not really here to talk about AEW. We are here to talk about a wrestling company called AAW. And this is something I've been wanting to mention now ever since this incident happened about a month ago in Berwyn, Illinois, at the Berwyn Eagles Club. And very first and straight away, I'm going to give a shout out to Post Wrestling, who has been covering this story phenomenally since the start of it. So I'm going to get into it myself in a little bit different of a way because I have a different perspective on this. Have been to the Berwyn Eagles Club to see AAW many times throughout the years, going all the way back to 2007. So about a month ago at the Berwyn Eagles Club, and Berwyn is just right outside of Chicago, basically, there was a wrestling company that came through called RPW, Ruthless Pro Wrestling. So there was an incident that night with a probably more than intoxicated fan being very overzealous and just kind of being rude the whole night, I guess. I'm just going to cut straight to the chase on this. Like after the show ended at the merchandise stand, I guess the fan ended up getting into a scuffle with one of the wrestlers by the name of Mad Cruel. Earlier in the night, I guess Mad Cruel had wrestled a death match and was all beat up and everything. But be that as it may, these two ended up getting into a scuffle, and I guess other wrestlers got involved as well. So, word ends up getting out without any proof or evidence at all. But word started going around that this fan had stabbed Mad Cruel. Okay? Once again, zero evidence. Nothing. Like, nothing to prove that this fan stabbed him, okay? So, mind you guys, this happened 1 month ago. And there's been a police report, an investigation, and all of this stuff, and nothing. They're not arresting the fan for stabbing anybody. Nobody has said anything about this all of this time, except for two wrestlers that night. The one guy, I forget his name. You can find out easily enough listening to the post wrestling stories, even. But the other wrestler, I really like her, man, and I wish she wouldn't have gotten involved, Mickey Knuckles. And she has since apologized for saying that the fan stabbed him when she didn't really see it, and she's just going off of hearsay or whatever. But this has turned into a fucking shit show for the Berwyn Eagles Club. And after decades and decades and decades of them running wrestling shows, they're putting an end to it, And the wrestler Mad Cruel finally came out like yesterday and made a statement about it, basically taking responsibility for the entire fucking situation, saying it wasn't the knife and this and that and the other thing. And it's like, man, well, thanks for coming out and saying that. But a month later, you know, after the Eagles Club is like saying we don't want any more wrestling here at all and this and that. I mean, it's not AAW's fault. And I say AAW, not AEW. There's a big distinction. AAW, their local Chicago area. GCW also runs shows there. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that were coming up probably that aren't going to be happening there. And that's very sad, especially when I start to show you guys the storied history at the Berwyn Eagles Club. All right? I'm going to make this plea to Berwyn and the Eagles Club. I wish you guys would sincerely reconsider not allowing pro wrestling there anymore. Just think of all the good years you've had with AAW and even GCW and other organizations that have come through and acted professionally, without any incidents. I mean, if you have to, don't allow this company to come back there ever again. But don't punish AAW and GCW and, the other companies that have come in there and done things the right way. And that's just, my opinion as a fan, as somebody who has gone to many, many shows there throughout the years, uh, it's just a sad situation, man. It's sad to see a historic building like this, a nice little venue for independent wrestling, say we don't want it anymore because of one incident with one fucking company out of the many, many, many years and shows that have run the Berwyn Eagles Club. So that's what I'm going to say about that. We're going to take a look at some of these DVDs real quick, just so I can show you guys just a bit of the storied history that has been at the Berwyn Eagles Club. And this isn't even everything. This is just the tip of the iceberg, okay? Radiators going off. Nothing I can do about that. We're going to start things off with this one right here. And I will get some better footage once I turn the camera around, and I'll show you guys the match cards and everything. But look at that. Who is that right on the cover there? WWE's Seth Rollins back in the day when he was Tyler Black. And Tyler Black wrestled many, many matches at the Berwyn Eagles Club. Man, that's a good start. Just for starters, just to show you guys, you know, the history this place has for wrestling. Here's another one. Merrick Brave versus Tyler Black. And I plan on going through all of these and just showing you guys the matches and stuff like that, you know, just for anyone who's interested. Because this is a historic venue. And I don't think some people quite understood that at first, you know. When this story first broke, you know, some people were like, ha ha ha, the Berwyn Eagles Club, you know, because they just didn't know, you know. But that's a very historic place for pro wrestling. And it's fucked up to see it coming to an end, you know. So, here's another one from 5/3 of 08. Look at that. The Motor City Machine Guns. I mean, we've had everybody come through here. You name them, they've been to Berwyn. Here's another good one. Fade to Black. This show was awesome. I was here. My favorite, my all-time favorite event, match of all time at Berwyn. Claudio versus Tyler Black. So, yeah. I really wish the Berwyn Eagles Club would reconsider, man. I mean, look at all this history we got there. So, the Windy City Classic 4. Path of Redemption, Jimmy Jacobs, Ryan Boz. This is going into 2009. Fate of 8. These are all AAW DVDs. Scars and Stripes, Stairway to Hell, Hollister versus Cannon. Defining Moment, Us versus Them. And finally, the last AAW DVD I have, Massacre on 26th Street from 10/17 of 09. So, once again, I know I sound like a broken record. Chicago's favorite son, Colt Cabana, on the back of it there. I know I sound like a broken record, but I just, you know, I make a plea to the Berwyn Eagles Club. Don't end the historic run of wrestling there. You guys have a great venue for it. Just, you know, do what you got to do and just allow the companies in that you know are good. But that's really all I have to say. And for any wrestling fans, I'm going to turn the camera around and just zoom in on all the matches on these just so you guys can see the true history of wrestling at the Berwyn Eagles Club. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned for the rest of the video if you like. Otherwise, we'll see you next time. Welcome back, pro wrestling fans, and anyone curious enough to watch this part of the video. I'm just going to quickly show you guys the storied history of the Berwyn Eagles Club. I'm going to go over the match cards of these random DVDs that I've accumulated throughout the years of going to AAW shows. Starting with 2/17/2007, My Bloody Valentine. This is Tony Scarpone versus Tyler Black. I mean, just a couple names of note as you see: Tracy Smothers, Tyler Black, Zach Gowen, Phil Atlas, Merrick Brave, M-Dog Matt Cross, Boz and Lawrence. I mean, these were awesome shows. I haven't been to one in some time, but I've been to many of them throughout my life. Here we see Merrick Brave versus Tyler Black from 4/5/08. Let's take a look at the rest of the matches real quick. Danny Daniels and Trick Davis, I see that on there immediately. Silas Young versus Austin Aries. The North Star Express, Ryan Boz. Josh Abercrombie, Eric Cannon. Jimmy Jacobs versus Skull Crusher. Jerry Lynn versus M-Dog 20 for the AAW heavyweight title. And Merrick Brave versus Tyler Black. Was this ever a stacked show? And here we have AAW Defining Moment from 5/3/2008. Motor City Machine Guns versus Bryce Benjamin and Shane Hollister. Silas Young versus Eric Cannon. Trick Davis, Danny Daniels, and Merrick Brave versus Rushay Brown, M-Dog 20, and Dan Lawrence. AAW Heritage title match, Jimmy Jacobs versus Egotistico Fantastico. Next up is probably the second best show that I ever went to there, in my opinion anyway, just my opinion. And it's nice to have been able to pick up DVDs for the shows that I went to later on down the line, you know. So this was Fade to Black, Berwyn, Illinois, 8/9/2008. The Phoenix Twins versus Hunter Matthews and Knight Wagner. Keith Walker versus Rashay Brown. Egotistical Fantastico versus CJ Otis. Silas Young versus Jimmy Jacobs. I mean, I'm not going to read them all off here, but as you see, another good show. Next up is my all-time favorite show I ever went to, just, you know, personally. So, Reign of Violence, Berwyn, Illinois, 10/4/2008. Claudio Castagnoli versus Tyler Black for the AAW Heavyweight Championship. Let's take a look at the match card quickly. Looks like Silas Young versus Lindsay Dorado versus Hunter Matthews versus Christian Abel. Ryan Boz versus Knight Wagner. I'm not going to read down the entire match card. You guys can read the matches for yourselves. Danny Daniels, I always got to say his name whenever I see it. And of course, our championship match, man, Tyler Black versus Claudio. Next up is the Windy City Classic 4. This was 11/28/08. These shows are always stacked, man. Back in the day when I used to go. And I went a lot during the Tyler Black reign, so those were good days. Next up is Path of Redemption, Jimmy Jacobs, Ryan Boz, 1/24/09. Quickly, the matches of note: AAW Heritage title match, Eric Cannon versus Shane Hollister versus M-Dog 20. The AAW Heavyweight title match, Tyler Black versus Davey Richards. Fans Bring the Weapons match, Ryan Boz versus Jimmy Jacobs. Next up was the Bloody Valentine show from 2/21/2009. Silas Young versus Shima Zion, or Zima Ion, I believe some people might know him as. Fate of 8, 6/12 of 2009. Matt Cross turned up on a lot of these shows, which was fun. Jay Bradley on this show. I don't know if anybody remembers Jay Bradley. I believe he had a run in TNA for a while. Danny Daniels versus Merrick Brave. Scars and Stripes, Stairway to Hell, Hollister versus Cannon. 7/11 of 2009. Jimmy Jacobs versus Danny Daniels. Silas Young and Dan Lawrence versus Arya Daivari and Austin Aries. House of Truth versus Juice Robinson and Mike Seidel. AAW Heavyweight Title match, Jay Bradley versus Tyler Black. Stairway to Hell match, AAW Heritage Title, Eric Cannon versus Shane Hollister. Defining moment, Us versus Them. 9/5 of 2009. AAW Heavyweight Title match, Jay Bradley versus Jimmy Jacobs. Danny Daniels and Ryan Boz versus Zero Gravity. Bryan Danielson versus Silas Young. House of Truth versus the Young Bucks. Are you kidding me? Come on. What a show this was. And finally, at least as it pertains to my personal history of seeing shows at the Berwyn Eagles Club, I have this DVD to show you. Massacre on 26th Street, Berwyn, Illinois, 10/17 of 2009. Chicago's favorite son, Colt Cabana. Colt Cabana versus Johnny Wisdom. Colt Cabana versus Knight Wagner. The Phoenix Twins versus Flip Kendrick and Lewis Linden. AAW Heavyweight Title match, Jimmy Jacobs versus Ryan Boz. AAW Heritage Title match, Eric Cannon versus CJ Esparza. AAW Tag Team Title match, House of Truth versus Faith in Nothing. Tyler Black versus Silas Young. So just another stacked show. I thank you guys for taking a look at this video and taking a look at all of the history of AAW and the Berwyn Eagles Club. And once again, I humbly ask the Eagles Club, and I understand they're in a tough position here, but I humbly ask them to reconsider their stance on No More Pro Wrestling and at least continue the relationship with AAW and other companies who you've had great success with throughout the many, many years of pro wrestling at the Berwyn Eagles Club. Thank you very much for watching. Give a like to the video. Leave a comment if you like. Leave some of your favorite memories of seeing shows there if you have. So, we'll see ya and have a good day.